What up? Welcome back to the Just Checking In podcast. You got your two favorite co-hosts here, Uncle Don Don, everybody's favorite uncle, yours truly. And it looks like my co-host took my comment to heart last episode. I said you might look like a problematic football player, and now you are on the field. So nice.
Definitely on the field, definitely representing for the home team. But Mr. Qualifier, per usual, as I typically am and present. But yeah, man, how's it going? This is new, recorded very close together. So
Surprise.
I saw you. How you doing? But yeah, but no, I feel like as we are wrapping up the year and as we are approaching episode 50, which is a milestone in and of itself, I think it's timely that we man, just kind of reflect on the year. 2024 has officially flown by. And we are reaching the tail end of this particular flight. But yeah, any any things that stick out or that you remember right away from the standpoint of the year? Just general thoughts, summary, if you will, on what you've taken away from this year of life.
So many things. The first thing I will say is our brother synergy for recording because we didn't mention it last episode, but we accidentally matched and coordinated. I see we are doing essentially the same thing today, and it's happened a couple other episodes. So if we cannot talk about 2024 and not talk about the accidental outfit collaboration that we have, but no, overall, my 2024 was pretty solid. I'm not gonna hold you. This is the first time that I think I've read things on like Twitter and Instagram where they like, "Oh, 2024 was not my year. I'm gonna just do 25," and be like, "Actually, nah, the 24 was pretty good to me. I'm not gonna hold you." So, personally, financially, professionally, all across the board, like, I think I had more highs than I had lows.
What do you feel like was the consistent theme, or what did you notice was kind of the engine that allowed the year to somewhat continuously be good or have a baseline of being really good as opposed to either one having a lot of fluctuation or just being or having more lows than highs?
I had an open mind this year. I know that sounds like super cliche, but I started the year and was just like, I wrote down very specific goals for one of the first times. I mean, I've always had goals, but I was just like, I want to do this by then, and I set them at realistic expectations, so I hopefully could like build these micro wins throughout the year. Um, but money was one of them. I was blessed to be able to use my gifts and talents to make some money this year in a way that I have not done before. That saying it out loud though, that actually doesn't sound the way that I intended it. I didn't do anything strange for a piece of change. Not
You
opposed
did.
to it, but I
Now
didn't.
you did say you weren't opposed to doing that in the previous.
I am not opposed to it. So if y'all have some change rattling, I might find some things strange to do. No, but that being said, no, it was a good year. I was able to accomplish some goals. So yeah.
That's very real. Yeah, I feel like I think I might have mentioned this last episode as well, but I feel like every time we talked, every time we've had a check in on the year, when we checked in halfway through the year, all the conversations in between, you've had a pretty good baseline of just being comfortable, not content with anything you were doing where you were at. But I think you spoke a lot to this being one of the first phases where you genuinely felt like I'm not I'm not trying to keep my head above water. I'm above water. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm swimming peacefully, with where I'm at in life.
And at the very least, I learned to float healthily.
Mm.
Like I'm above water, but I'm not on a yacht. You know, you might need to throw me a little life vest, but I'm not gonna flail. So that was my approach this year. So yeah, I just call me Scissor. I was just out there on the water, okay?
Anyway.
You paid me. I didn't.
Anyway, but no, that's good. And one, first and foremost, that's great to hear. I want to make sure I say that because I think we've spoken about it or alluded to it, but I know that the years before this, more specifically like a couple of years ago, they were some rougher years for you, and they were years that for me as a friend, seeing you have this year or seeing you talk about this year in this capacity, I'm very happy for you and proud of you because I know where you were before. And so getting to a place where for a full calendar year, you were in the space that you're in versus the spaces I've seen you in. I think it's always good seeing, people that you love and seeing people that matter to you on the other side of something that, yes, is traumatic, but also it was just tough and muddy waters, to navigate. So very happy to see you on the other side, and it looks good on you, brother. It looks good. Hair flourishing, skin flourishing.
I
You hear me? So I see you, big dog. I see you.
I appreciate and receive that because as Boyd likes to tell us, life ain't always been no crystal stair. So it's a
Indeed.
rough go these last few years, but now this was like the first year I felt and held peace
Mm.
across the board on a whole lot of things. So, I mean, I may complain and I may, vent or do whatever, but none of that can hold a candle to, I feel like the wins that I had this year. So I just been chilling. But I have also seen a transformation in you. So I'm curious to know how your year has gone.
Yeah, the year it's been an interesting one. One that I'm extremely grateful for because of its uh not fluidity, but like the ups and downs that I did experience, I think were needed. And I think the past couple of years, I've entered every new year kind of feeling like, all right, you at this space where it's time to take this leap, or it's time to make this pivot, or it's time to turn this corner. And I've made strides, but this feels like the first year where I pushed myself like, no, you need to take this step. It needs to be a little bit, bigger than the baby steps you've been accustomed to taking for the past couple of years. And it's come with a lot of weight. A lot of it I put on my own shoulders. But all in all, I don't think the year was everything that I wanted it to be. But the more I've sat down and I've reflected on it, I've accomplished and made way more progress than I've given myself credit for this entire year. And I think there's a part of me that struggled with acknowledging that progress because it wasn't my destination. It wasn't my goal. But in trying to give myself grace and in trying to just look at things open minded, as you mentioned, and just have a full perspective on it, it's been a needed year. And I think it was a setup year. That's the best way I could put it. I think it was a year that wasn't perfect, but the wins and the losses that I've had this year have prepared me and set me up for a much more intentional and a much more motivated 25 that I don't know if I've ever entered a year with this kind of hunger and passion for the things that feel very attainable moving forward. So that's kind of the best way I can sum up the year. A little bit of everything, but I think any challenge that I faced this year was something that was absolutely needed and something that needed to be approached head on now.
Mhm.
It's been long enough. So that's the kind of year it's been for me.
You mentioned the word destination, and the little squirrel in my head just went off. And shout out to Duran Bernard because he has a song. The name of it is Destination. And if you need a theme song for going into 2025, I would highly recommend checking out that song and taking the lyrics to heart. That being said, and I say this with love, you have not been as lost as you have been in previous years in our conversations. Like you always have a direction, an idea, but I think there's a certain level of like second guessing that you do. You also just hadn't been able to talk from a place of experience the way that you would like, is what I can kind of tell from that. So even when we talk and you'd be like, all right, so I'm thinking about this, or what should I do next? It's never in a place of like guide me, like tell me the answer so I can get there. It's just I'm processing this out loud
Mm,
just to kind of hear myself. And that's not something that you've always done. I think when you invite other people into your situation or conversation, you looking for something of what they say to like figure out where you take off and go next.
mm.
And this time it's more of like I'm just kind of informing you on this is what I'm thinking, and then I decide to do something next. So you feel more, you appear to be more confident in your decision making, and I think that just comes from you like learn a little bit more about life and learn a little bit more about, yourself and whatever. And even hearing you talk, I can resonate with this that this year feels like the first year of the rest of my life
Mm.
in some weird dramatic way to say, but this this feels like the first year. Like this is like a true foundation of what's to come next. And I feel like you and I have been rapping about that, off and on throughout the year anyway. So it's nice to see that we're kind of in the same space on that one.
Yeah, and first and foremost, I definitely appreciate that, and I 100% agree. I think you are always the perfect sounding board and mirror because one, I can't get anything past you, even if I try.
No.
Uh,
Not at all.
and but two, I think because of that, there's a large part of me that I think better understood this year, like you said, because of experience. But one, not only are you a trusted advisor and a part of my personal board of directors, I can break that down if you or the audience wants more clarity on that. But because of you holding that space, I always feel the need and feel like I owe it to you to come correct whenever I am bringing you into something. And when I think of come correct, it's like, let me not bullshit Donald. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm struggling with something, let me just be transparent about the fact that, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling with this. I am lost. Or getting to a place where it's like, no, I'm just kind of venting. I'm just speaking out loud. And I trust that you have the discernment to say, okay, I can throw my 2 cents in here just because I feel like it may be helpful. Or no, he just need to get this out. But he'll figure out where he needs to go. So I appreciate you even offering that space for me because I think that's a big part of me also feeling safe to go through um my process, that the process I feel like that you spoke to. But then again, to that feeling of it being the beginning of the rest of your life or the rest of our lives. Not only do I feel like it's the same for me, but I always think it's funny how we tend to align on things, even with the separation that does exist with us. And even though that separation is solely kind of in a age and life experience kind of thing, it never feels like we always kind of feel like we're still on the same plane of outlook on life and even approach to life, which for me is kind of helpful because I think there's this aspect that I've always had where if I'm thinking about people who are older than me or like mentors, if I'm looking at my mentors, I don't necessarily expect for us to have the same concerns, problems,
Mhm.
issues. So sometimes when we do or when you're speaking to something, it's a relief for me because I'm like, oh, ooh, okay. So this isn't just a me at 28 thing. This is maybe just a type of man I am thing, or type of man I want to be thing, or type of human I am thing. So that helps even if you don't realize it. Alleviate a lot of pressure from me because I'm able to use you as a north star even if it's subconscious, just because I trust and value your outlook and experience, and I'm lucky enough to have a front row seat to that because of the access you grant me. So yeah, I definitely agree and appreciative of it all. I do have a few other questions though for us to continue to reflect and replay our 2024. Um, but what is something new that you learned about yourself this year?
Um, that's a great question. What is something new that I learned about myself this year?
Mm.
Um, I am capable of self-correction.
Mm.
I think I have been, I mean, I'm not oblivious to me in like in life in general, right? But I think because I've always been involved in other people and like having other people around, different things like that, it's just been easy to have somebody else point out something about me, good, bad, or indifferent. But I'm like, oh, they brought that up. Okay, now I can make my own edits. And, I say I'm self-aware in these things, but it still was relying too heavily on somebody else's comment, reply, perspective, and then I'm like, oh, now I can take action. Now I can do that. But I think I'm able to self-correct because I'm checking myself and clocking these things in real time and being able to kind of navigate that. So that's probably one thing. It's probably a whole bunch of stuff, but that's probably the first thing that comes to mind.
I think something new that I've learned about myself this year. Um, I'm way stronger than I give myself credit for. More so like mentally and emotionally. I've always been aware and I've
Mhm.
always been somebody who has been in tune with my emotions, whether it's just being emotionally intelligent, whether it's the ability to hold myself accountable, whether it's the ability to accept that, yo, I was wrong or I handled this poorly or whatever the case may be. I feel like I've always had that strong type of moral compass, but I also feel like I used to allow that to be manipulated a lot. And I feel like this year there were some situations, there were some moments there, and across all aspects of life, which I think, even more so speaks to the point. But um, yeah, I learned that I learned that I'm strong, but it's not this newfound strength. I think it's strength that I lost confidence in. And I think I learned that it's still there, which seems kind of simple, and I don't know if it makes sense to people who are hearing it, but it's this idea that I used to have. I feel like this confidence that just kind of like oozed out, like it was very clear. And I think that over the past 3 years or so, it just quietly started to diminish to the point where there was a point in time where, in a way, I felt like I was kind of a shell of myself or the person that I knew. And I definitely wasn't heading in the direction of the person I wanted to be. But this year, in like taking some of those leaps and in just being more intentional about pushing myself to face some things head on, it was a reminder that, like, no, you've always had this strength, bro. You've always had this confidence in who you are. And it's
Mhm.
like I learned that I am who I am. And who I am is somebody who I genuinely feel like in some way, form, or fashion is going to change the world. And it may not be the world at large, but I'll change my world and the people that are in it. Um, and now I don't know if that comes off like conceited or narcissistic or anything like that,
Not
but
for you.
um, but it's just the learning that it was still there was one of the biggest revelations that I had this year because it was something that I genuinely had lost touch with. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned about myself this year. What's one thing that you worked hard on, even if the results haven't necessarily shown it this year?
I was gonna say myself, but the results actually show that this time for me, I think. Like I'm like I can tangibly pinpoint those things, but some things I worked on. I made a lot of financial progress this year, and I can't take that away, but I had a certain goal in mind that I wanted this last credit card to get down to, and it did, and I blinked and I swiped it a few couple extra times or something. So now it's not where I was, right? I was thousands of dollars in debt. Now it's just like $1,000. That ain't nothing. But if I had to say something, it would seem as though the number that I started with at the beginning of the year and saying I wanted to pay this off, it's like, okay, but it's not zero, but it's in a manageable space. But I really don't think that I didn't do anything I said I didn't want to do or set out to accomplish.
Hmm, that's good. And I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, it definitely shows on you, on your person. That's clear. So I don't think you can say the results aren't obvious there.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I think everything that I wanted to do is shown. So I think I'm good there. Is it a win that you wish you had that is not being shown, or one that was almost there?
I think the win that maybe the results aren't extremely evident for me, is healing. Um, it's a personal journey anyway, so it's not necessarily something that is supposed to be extremely evident to others. However, um, I think, depending on who's paying attention and who decides to care, it may not always be as clear that I've made some of the progress that I've made, but it's been a it's been a journey. It's been a doozy, and it's definitely been a lot of hard work that I know won't be appreciated or recognized. Not that it's supposed to be about other people, but if I had to think about a win that the results don't necessarily show for, that would probably be it for me this year. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that.
That makes sense. And those results are not for everybody to see, right? The little things that you have worked on, or what would seem little things that you have worked on. Like everybody doesn't need to see like, oh, Qualls didn't blow up when, somebody said this to him, or oh, he made this change and asked somebody a different question on how they felt. Like those are the things, the little micro wins, our little bronze medals, I feel like that everybody can see the end result. They don't necessarily see the actual work done. So I have a hard time answering that question because I feel like everything that I have done, like people can see, but they wouldn't be able to pinpoint like that itemized list, kind of like what you just said. But I don't think that they need to.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not for them.
Mhm.
Um, Last general question I have in regard to our 2024 replay. Were you present enough for the people who mattered to you in
No,
2024? How do you feel about that?
I feel a way about that. But and I've acknowledged this in the last week, like had I been any more present for people, I would not be having this conversation with you.
Mm.
So I struggle in what the balance of being present for other people are and then focusing on myself. And it's very much giving Rose in the Titanic. I don't know how many times I'm gonna be able to switch off this little door that's floating for us to make it. Like I'm the one that's gonna have to edge out and tell the story. Like that's how I feel. And I feel so bad that I'm not present, that I'm not as present as I would like to be for other people. But I'm sorry, Jack. You shiver, shiver, shiver a little bit because I got a gold medal to get. But I say in all seriousness, though, I immediately acknowledge that I don't think that I was as present as I could have been for my circle. I see that Callie is present for you, though.
Callie is present for me and always has been. I'm so grateful to you for that, Cal. Um, but hello, hi.
Oh, hey, special guest. We was looking for another person. Well, we got a dog instead, but
Yeah, we got Air Bud. Yeah, she can speak to a lot. You know what I'm saying? But she done started talking more too. So you know what I'm saying. She be getting words out now. I be knowing what she be trying to say. But but I think my answer would be no as well. What I can acknowledge though is that I had a moment where it was made very clear to me that I wasn't being present enough. And I know that I came into this year more intentional about being so, at least in that particular friendship and relationship. So I know at least with that person, uh it's been like I've been more intentional. But I would say in general, I just always feel like I could be, better as well. And I know that a lot of it for me is wishing that I was in a place to be more active by my standards in terms of being present for others. Like, yes, it's one thing to be there, but also being able to actually help and do things and make a difference or have an impact. I feel like because I was trying to, get myself above water, that I didn't really have the capacity to help others or be that anchor for others in the way that I, one, naturally feel inclined to do anyway, and two, that I want to for people who are doing that for me. But I also think I just had to learn that the people that are meant to be there, if you talk about your board of directors or the people that's meant to be in that circle anyway, y'all take turns. Y'all take seasons. 1 year they might do the heavy lifting. 1 year you might do the heavy lifting. And until y'all can both do equal lifting consistently, that might just be how it look. And in some relationships and friendships, it may not ever really be equal, but that's also just y'all understanding of the dynamic of the relationship, right? So I think that's how I would answer that. But no, I'm not as present as I would have liked to be. But I think I'm moving in the right direction of finding that balance and being able to do so.
Yeah. You know what I struggle with this year? I am putting in the work to win. I'm not saying other people are not, but I know the amount of work that I'm putting in to win. And when I see other people who, by my standards, are not, I can't give more of myself and be more present than I currently am to get you to win when I want you to win more than you want to win yourself. So I know that I have not been as present as I could be across the board for people, but for me that's been very fragile. Like my presence has been very fragile. Like I can only super glue and guarantee that I can be present with myself and it's solid and we good. But the moment I got to be present for you this year, I don't know what happened, but I shut down and I've become just Humpty Dumpty on the wall. I'm about to have a great fall, and we all about to crack together because I haven't figured out how to navigate that. So I'm hoping in 2025 that everything that I have amassed to this point sticks. So now I can reach out and help and be present and do all those other things in practice instead of being from a place, kind of coming from in theory. So yeah, that's been a little jarring, I think, for me.
I think all in all, 2024 has been a year of, say it with me, growth.
Bro.
um, but I think that's good. I think whenever you can look back on a time frame of any capacity and acknowledge growth, acknowledge evolution, and acknowledge wins, yeah, I don't think you can ever really go wrong. So I feel it. I love
Good
it.
talk. Good talk.
But yeah, that has been our 2024 replay, if you will. Me and Donald both use Apple Music for the most part, so that's why we said replay instead of wrapped. But nonetheless, this is the last episode before 50. And Callie wants to say hi. No, she doesn't. Okay. I thought Callie wanted to say hi because of that. But yeah, yeah. I don't know. She's never been this active in the pod before. But but anyway, this is the last episode before 50. Newsflash. 50 will be in person. So the vibes will be immaculate per usual. But yeah, we're gonna kind of go out this year with a bang, hit episode 50 with a bang. But until then, and until next time, we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Peace.
Peace. Oh, we got a surprise.